One of the currently old, working to uplift the future old. One of the previously young, helping to uplift the currently young. Teaching the currently young to help the previously young.
My name is Camilla Lewis and I'm a researcher in the Sociology Department at the University of Manchester.
My name is Ruth Webber and I'm a research associate at the Sociology Department as well.
And we both work in a group called MICRA, which is the Manchester Institute for Collaborative Research on Ageing.
And we're currently undertaking a project which is looking at how older people's relationships to place change over time, and with a particular focus on 4 different neighbourhoods.
So the aim of today is to have a discussion with older people who live in different areas of Greater Manchester and stakeholders and practitioners and policymakers about what older people's experiences of growing older in the city might be like in the future. And this is part of the ESRC's Festival of Social Sciences.
There's already really good connections between the university, the council and practitioners working in the city, and this event was a way of bringing those groups together to have a conversation about ageing in the city and what that might look like in the future. And it was also really an opportunity for us to understand the kinds of issues and ideas and concerns that older people living in Manchester have today in relation to the places that they're growing old in, to make sure that the ideas that we're bringing out in our data are relevant and have weight in the contemporary context of ageing in Greater Manchester.
So the first activity was to ask people to rank particular themes that the City Council are working on around ageing in list of importance. The idea here wasn't that there was a particular order that they should follow, but that they should have a discussion about what they think is most important and to reflect on how these priorities might differ depending on which bit of the city you live in. And we also asked people to identify gaps, so are there particular things that are important to them that they didn't see being represented within the priorities?
And what was really interesting about this exercise was the way that what came out of both the conversations was the inextricable connection between all of these different themes. So on housing without focusing on health, you can't focus on health without talking about transport, but there were also gaps that people identified in terms of thinking about environment and climate change, these kinds of themes that are perhaps bigger than the Greater Manchester context itself, but equally important.
Well, I think it was more to do with interaction between nature and human population as it multiplies, and more people who are living longer. So how it could impact the earth in the next 50 or 60 years is very important.
So that was the first exercise, and the second one was slightly more imaginative. So we asked people to move away from thinking about their everyday lives and to think about the future, and we challenged them to think about what it would be like to grow older for older people in 50 years. And the point of this was to have quite a kind of free thinking exercise about what older people's lives might look like.
So we identified a few core themes just to kind of catalyse a conversation about the kinds of situations that older people might be living in 50 years' time. Again, the relationship between all of these different themes was really evident and came out strongly in the groups. And a lot of older people and practitioners and policymakers talked about the possibilities for co-housing, for technological advancements as an additive to supporting ageing processes rather than a replacement of other kinds of relationships. But also thinking about how, as populations become more mobile, what that will look like for responsibilities of care, for the way that social relationships are carried out, and how things like technology and technological advancements can support this process.
So there's an interesting discussion about what the family might look like in 50 years, and a realisation that people might be living in very distant places, but through new technologies might be able to keep in touch more. And there were some really interesting discussions also about the fact that the life expectancy is going to be much older than it is now. So the length of time that people are classified as old will be much greater, and there'll be huge distinctions between the younger and the older old. So I think today's been a really exciting opportunity to share some of our work from Micra on ageing in place with older people who are interested in what types of research are being carried out, and to start a discussion that we hope will continue in future events that we run in the new year.
I'm pleasantly surprised that this is being done, and I personally am very passionate about my community. You know, I'm passionate about how young people fare when I'm not here, when the older ones are not here. What are we leaving? What legacy are we leaving? So I'm really pleased that we can look at older people, and in so doing, linking all the amenities together. And I wish you all the best of luck.